Whether you're a team of 1 or a team of 100, there are times that you're going to want to be able to create or view a report that helps you get the details about each and every team member within your organization. And that's what we're going to talk about on this specific training. So let's go to the Reports tab up at the top. And from there, you're going to see a list of different reporting options here in PhoneBurner. This specific training, we're going to be talking about custom reports, but rather than going into some reports that are already created, we're going to add a new report, a report that we call a member detail report. So we're going to create a new report and talk about all of the different options that are available and create a very basic member detail report. So let's go ahead and click on the Add Report button in the upper right-hand portion of the page. From there, we're going to give our report a name. I'm going to name mine New Member Detail. I can give it a description if I want. And the report type is going to be Member Detail. There are two other options listed here, Team Summary and Source Summary. We'll talk about those at a different time. So we're going to leave it set to Member Detail. Now the next thing I need to decide is the default date range. So whenever I load this report, what is the date range that I want to see? And when we click on this option, you're going to see some default options. Real-time leaderboard, today, yesterday, last week, Monday through Friday, last month, last 7 days, last 30 days, 60, 90, 120, 180, 365, and year to date. Now, of course, you'll always have the option to change the date range whenever you're looking at the report. This is only setting the default date range that will load whenever you open this report. So let's go ahead and select the last 30 days in this particular case. I can also choose the default leaderboard theme, whether I want it to be light or dark. Now, notice that we're not necessarily setting this as a leaderboard report, but any custom report that we create can be launched into a real-time leaderboard. Then we have the option to include a graph. I'm going to go ahead and hit yes for that. And then we also have the option to rotate leaderboard fields. I'm going to leave this set to no for right now, but we'll come back to that later when we talk about the real-time leaderboard. Now that we've made our selections, let's go ahead and save this report. Once we save this report, we'll see three options on the left-hand side. Fields, seats, and email delivery have now been unlocked. We cannot edit those or click on those until we save the report. But now that it's saved, let's go ahead and move on to the field section. The field section is where you decide which data points you would like to see included in the report. With a member detail report, I always recommend that you start with the agent information. So this will show the full names of all of the team members that are going to be included in this report. And then by default, the system adds calls, talks, average talk time, and emails. You may not want those, but it starts with those. So let's say, for example, we're not going to be reporting on the amount of emails that are sent in this specific report. So I can just click on the little trash can over on the right, and that will delete that line item from this specific report. And if I want to include additional fields in the report, I just click on the Add a New Field button. That'll pop up this Add a New Field modal, and now I can start to add a new field to this report. Whenever I'm adding new fields to the report, I typically will start with the type option. So you'll notice here we got field label, description, default sort, and then type. I'm going to start with type because there are several types of data points that we can include in a custom report. We got simple value slash photo, sum slash total, dispositions, calculation, folder, and activity. We're going to talk about each one of these. So let's leave it set to simple value slash photo. Whenever we choose the type, you're going to see the option below that, the value source, is going to change based off of the field type that we've selected. So for this specific field type, simple value slash photo, we have some options: member email address, member first name, member full name, member last login, member last name, member location, member phone number, and member photo. Now, in this particular case, I'm not going to add any of these because we already have the member's full name added to the report. Remember, that's the first option that was listed here. And the rest of these, in this particular case, I don't necessarily want to include in my report, so I'm not going to worry about them. But I did want to show you what was available. So now let's adjust the type to sum/total. And once I select that, I'll see the sum source option show up below. Let's go ahead and click on that menu and see what kind of options we have here. So we've got SMS sends. That represents all of the text messages that you and or your team members have sent. Now, of course, if you don't have the SMS feature enabled on your PhoneBurner account, that's not going to be relevant. Then you've got total call time. That represents the actual total time that you spent talking to people. Think of that like talk time. Then you've got total calls. This is the total number of calls that you made during the date range or your team members made during the date range for this report. Total emails, self-explanatory, just like calls. Total live answers, how many people actually answered the phone, and that's based off of the setting in the disposition where you can configure any disposition to count as a connected call or a non-connected call. So based off that setting and the dispositions that were clicked, is going to determine whether or not that specific call counts as a live answer. Then you've got total logins, total no answers. This is just like live answers, but any disposition that is configured as not a connected call. Then you got total session duration. How much time did you spend in actual dial sessions during this date range and or your team, right? Total sessions, how many dial sessions did you start? And then finally, total voicemails. This is specifically the voicemail option. As you're making calls and you're clicking the dispositions and leaving voicemails, those get logged. And of course, that could be recorded voicemails or live voicemails. Let's go ahead and click away. Let's go to the next type. We've got disposition. Disposition will unlock the status option. Now this is going to be different for every one of you because this is based off of the buttons or dispositions that you have created in your PhoneBurner account. So every time you create a disposition in PhoneBurner, you have a status option. Whatever you put in as the status for that disposition becomes an option when you're creating a report. So I'm not obviously going to go through each and every one of these because mine are going to be different than yours, but just know every time you create a disposition in PhoneBurner, you set the status, that status can be reported on. Let's go to the next option. That is our calculation options. So when you choose that, we're going to see a new set of options below that for calculations. We've got average session duration. What's the average amount of time you spent in any individual dial session? Average talk time. Percentage interested. That's specifically looking at a disposition with a status of interested. So if you're not using a disposition with a status of interested, that's not going to be relevant for you. The next one is percentage of connected calls. That one is a really valuable one in my opinion. Let's go to the next option. We've got folder. So as you create folders in PhoneBurner, you can add those folders as options in a report. What's nice about this is it's going to give you a count of how many records are in that specific folder when you load this report. The date range is going to be irrelevant when it comes to a folder option being added to this report. Now let's look at the next type. The next type is activity. When we choose the activity type, we'll see different options in the drop-down menu, and there are lots of different activity options that we can choose from. I'm not going to go through each and every one of those on this specific training. I will have a separate training that will go through each and every one of the activity options. Just know that most of the activities that can be attributed to a contact in PhoneBurner can be included in a report. So now that we've kind of talked about some of the options here, let's add a few options to our report. I'm going to go back to the type, switch this to sum/total, and I'm going to choose live answers. I'm now going to give the field label a name. I'm going to name this Live Answers. I could give it a description if I want. I can also include it in the summary. Now, not every field can be included in the summary. It's going to be limited to the first 5 or 6 of them. I forget exactly which, what that total is, but you can include some of these in a summary, and what that does is it totals it up for the entire team. I'll show you that once we get this report done. So let's go ahead and save that. Oh wait, talks and live answers. Those are the same thing. Let's actually edit this. And let's change this from sum/total live answers to total call time. And let's save that. Oh, I need to change the name. Let's edit that. Change that to live talk time and save that. There we go. So now we've got the agent, the total calls, the total live answers, the average talk time, and then the live talk time. Let's go ahead and add another field. Let's go to our disposition option. And let's say we're really interested in seeing how many times the booked appointment disposition is used. So we're going to choose booked appointment, and I'm just going to call this APTs for short. No description again, and I'm going to include this in the summary. And then I'm going to save it. So I think you're getting the idea of how you can add different fields to the report. Let's move on to the next option, which is the seats section. Here we can choose which team members we want to include in our report. Now, of course, if you're a team of 1, you're the only one that can be included. And so you probably just want to leave this alone. However, if you are a team with lots of people in the organization, when you're creating a custom report, there may be times that you want to create a report that only includes some people. So let's say you have a group of people that's doing a specific calling campaign and you want to report on them only. You can, of course, create a report that only includes those people. Now keep in mind, if you create a report that only includes certain people, even if you select everybody, so you're not selecting the very top checkbox that forces everyone to be selected, if you add more team members later on, they will not automatically get added to this report. So I'm going to go ahead and select that very top box and make sure everybody's included. Now I also want to point out that you can update this report to only show active seats or to show suspended seats as well. That can come in handy if you have team members that you've let go and you still want to include them in whatever report that you're running so that you can get an accurate assessment of what's happened with the entire organization, not just those that are currently active in the account. So I'm going to leave this as is, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save just to make sure that it is still saved. And then we're going to move on to the next option, which is email delivery. If I go to email delivery, you'll see that there are a few options that I have here. I've got daily, weekly, and monthly. So when you're setting up email delivery for a specific report, I want to point out that if we go back to the report settings, the default date range has nothing to do with the email delivery option. So whatever you put in here as the default date range, that is only for when you first load the report, not for email delivery. So now let's go back to email delivery. How does email delivery work? How does it decide what information and how much information to include in that email when it's sent? Well, it depends on whether or not you choose daily, weekly, or monthly. If you choose daily, then every time, every day, the system is going to send this email and it's going to show you yesterday's activity. So you only need to add that email delivery once, and every day you're going to get an email that shows you all of the activity that happened in your account, your team's account, yesterday. Now, if you choose weekly, you also need to choose which day of the week you want to receive that report. So let's say I choose Monday and I add that email delivery. Every Monday, I'm going to get an email that includes this report for the previous 7 days, all of the activity for the previous 7 days. So if I want to get a 7-day report every day of the week, Monday through Friday, I would choose weekly, and I would add Tuesday, choose weekly again and add Wednesday, choose weekly again, add Thursday, and then finally I would choose weekly, Friday. And now this report would get emailed to me daily, Monday through Sunday. It would be emailed to me weekly, Monday through Friday. The daily email that I get is going to include just the activity yesterday. The weekly email that I get Monday through Friday is going to include the previous 7 days activity. So the Monday email is going to be last Monday through Sunday. Tuesday is going to be last Tuesday through Monday, and so on and so forth. And then the same concept applies for monthly. So if I choose monthly, I then need to choose what day of the month I want to receive this email. So if I just want to receive the monthly version of this report on the first of the month, I choose the first, and it's going to give me the previous 30 days of activity. It does not necessarily give you the full month. It's always the previous 30 days. So in some cases, it might be spot on. In other cases, it might be a little short because we had a 31-day month, or a little extra in the case of like a month with 28 days. So anyway, just keep that in mind. The monthly report, that monthly option is the previous 30 days of activity. You're choosing the day of the month you want to receive that previous 30 days worth of activity. And then finally, I want to point out that as you're adding these reports, if you want to add additional recipients to receive a copy of this report, you just need to enter their email address. So let's say I want to get a monthly version of this report on the 2nd, and I want to include someone else. I just enter their email address and click Add Email Delivery. Now, if you wanted to add a recipient, but you've already created the email delivery option, you just add that same email delivery option with an additional email recipient. So let's say, for example, my monthly on the 1st, I want to also send to Johnny. I can include him in this one. I just go ahead and choose monthly on the 1st, enter Johnny's email address, add email delivery, and the system will add Johnny to the existing monthly report sent on the 1st. All right, so now we have created our custom report. How do we take a look at it? Let's go back to the reports at the top, and we will see our new member detail report over on the left-hand side. When we select that, you will see that the default date range is the last 30 days as we requested it to be. Our summary is going to include the fields that we added to the summary up to a certain amount. Again, I can't remember exactly what that is, but it's around 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. And then we also have this graph. Remember, we asked it to include a graph, which is going to show each team member broken down by the number of calls they made, and also segmented by answered versus not answered. If we scroll down here, we're going to see each of our team members listed out. All of the data points that we added. So here we can see Jeff Osnes during this date range made 275 calls, talked to 9 people, had an average talk time of 24 seconds. Live talk time, total talk time was 3 minutes and 36 seconds, and 6 appointments were booked. Every one of these options is clickable. So I can click on the 275, and that'll allow me to drill down in and see exactly who this specific team member talked to or called during that date range. Now, if I've got call recordings enabled, I'll be able to listen to those recordings right here. I'll be able to download those recordings. I'll be able to delete those recordings. I can see the result of every call. I can see the caller ID that was displayed to the contact, the phone number that was called, the result of the call, was an email sent, was a voicemail left, all that information right here in the details. I can also export this information. So if I click on the export dial session menu, I have two options. I can export to CSV that excludes recordings, or I can export to zip, which includes recordings. So let's take a look at the CSV file. So let's click on that. That's going to generate the exported file. I can open that up. And here you'll see a list of all of the calls, all of the contacts, everything that happened. I have the results. I have the duration of the calls. I scroll over to the right. I've got all this good information. I have the call date, dial session, date added, voicemail, email sent, the caller ID that was used. So I've got all these details that I can then take and save. I can import it into another program that I could then further refine my reporting functionality if I wanted, right? So I can take this information out of the system and deal with it any way I want. If I were to export as a zip, not only would I get that CSV file where I could have all those details, but all of the MP3 files, the recordings that go along with these calls will be included. And not only will they be included, but the names of those files will reference the actual call ID that is also referenced in the CSV file. So I can match the recording to the specific line item in the CSV file. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. And then we can click on Previous Report. So anyway, that is how you can create a member detail report. Obviously, we just touched on a few options here. It's going to be up to you to decide which data points you want to see in this report, and you can create as many member detail reports as you would like. Totally up to you. But anyway, I hope this helps you better understand how you can dig into the details and understand what your team is doing through PhoneBurner. Thanks again, and happy dialing.